And we are live with Crash Media Paranormal Conversations with Crash. I'm Craig,
And I'm Ashley.
and tonight we're going to discuss proof versus pareidolia. And we start right now. All right, Ashley, how you been?
I'm good. I'm excited about tonight's show.
Yeah, me too. Me too. We've got an exciting show for everyone, and we hope everyone enjoys it. Tell me a little something. You look a little different. What have you done with your hair? It looks
I
a little.
darkened it a little bit.
Looks good. Looks
So
good.
actually, well, thank you. Actually, a little bit of what I do on the side, I do a little acting, and so for one of the roles that I was just in, I had to darken my hair just a little bit,
Oh, cool.
and so I'm gonna go back light eventually, but and it's still blonde, it's just a little bit darker.
I like it.
Um, which speaking of acting, Craig and I are actually going to be working on a short film soon,
That's right.
so I'll have to let you all know about that when it more details come in.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. That's going to be exciting.
Mhm.
Tell us, well,
Yeah.
you're crackling a little bit, so your audio, sometimes we're
Okay.
having a little issue with some audio
Yeah.
around here. All right. So tell us a little bit about pareidolia.
Okay. So for those that don't know what pareidolia is, it is a misperception of a random or ambiguous visual pattern. It's the human ability to see shapes or make pictures out of randomness. And I'm actually in a lot of Facebook groups and that involving the paranormal. 99% of the photos that are shared in there are actually a result of pareidolia.
Right.
And that is something that, as paranormal investigators, we get a lot of. And um, so, for an example of pareidolia, when you look at the clouds and it's nothing but a cloud, but you might see the shape of an elephant or something like that, your brain tries to make sense of what you're seeing. That can actually happen a lot when paranormal investigating. You can get a picture that you might think you see a face, and it's actually a reflection of something on a window. And it's something we really need to be mindful of and understand.
Exactly. And on the screen now, you see some examples of pareidolia. First, you see what is actually some suds going down a drain that looks like a human eyeball. That was creepy. And then you have one of my favorites, the screaming building. But a very cool one that we found doing some research was a rose that's dried out in the middle in the shape of a skull, a happy little tree, and a wonderful flying whale. So yeah, pareidolia is one of those things that makes us human, and the biggest consensus is it comes from the olden days when we had to look at night for any kind of trouble, so we could see wolves and dinosaurs and all this other stuff in all the noise.
Yeah, and funny thing about that eyeball picture,
Uh
I didn't even know that was a drain until
huh.
you said it was a drain because my brain was tricking me to think that that was an actual eyeball.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, those are really cool. And we also have some
Yeah.
really famous ones. One of them is this picture right here, which is the famous face on Mars, which was taken in the 70s. And of course, back then we didn't have the best high resolution cameras in our space probes. And it caught what became a conspiracy theorist's dream is the wonderful face in Mars. But in the I believe in the 90s or in the early 2000s, we got a picture of what it actually is. It's just a mountain. And if you look at them side by side, you'll see that's the effects of pareidolia. Now, I do admit that does look like a nice monumental statue.
Yeah. But that just shows you how our our brain tries to find something it recognizes.
Right.
And so it could just be spots on something, or the face and the man in the moon.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
just craters.
Right.
But when we look at it, our brain tries to tell us it's a face. So,
Right. And our friend Jeremy is online. Hey, Jeremy, how's everything going? Hope all is well. Let's see. We also have another image that Ashley found for me, which is a tree. This is one of my favorite ones. It looks almost like a Halloween pumpkin. Tell me a little bit about that one, Miss Ashley.
okay, so I got this one off of Google. I was doing a basic search of pareidolia, and this credit goes to Melinda Podor. And again, it's just on Google Images. And so with this image, it's someone who obviously like cut down the tree and it's inside the tree, but our brain tells us that we see a face.
Right. And this is actually used a lot in psychology with what is it called, Miss Ashley? Where you have the little ink things,
Ink
ink
blot
blots.
test.
That's it, ink blot.
Yes. The ink blot test, yes. And so psychologists will actually use pareidolia with ink blot tests to diagnose patients with certain conditions. The way we see things and the way that our brain makes sense can determine a lot about the way our brains work. And so pareidolia is an actual condition, it's an actual medical thing. And so, it wouldn't make sense. It almost is like a coping mechanism. We might see something that your brain is unsettled with a little bit, a bunch of like, ambiguous patterns and shapes. And we make that into, a cute little bunny or a face or something.
Exactly. Or in this
Yeah.
ink blot right here, I don't know what you see, Ashley. I see a scary, scary pumpkin with bat wings.
Let me see. So the video is lagging for a moment on my
Oh
end, so
no.
it'll pop up here in a second.
Yeah. So it looks like a scary little pumpkin with bat wings there.
Let's see. Oh yeah. So the first thing I see with that is like a bat. I almost think of Mothman, but I think
Uh-huh.
my brain automatically starts thinking, paranormal. So I start thinking Mothman.
Exactly, exactly. And Jeremy, it's great to see you too. Hope all is going well. Now let's talk a little bit about what was that, Ashley? I thought you were going to say something.
uh, no, sorry, my mic might be
Uh,
acting up again. I'm gonna switch it real quick.
okay. All right. And while she's switching, let's talk a little bit about how does pareidolia affect paranormal investigating.
So, like I mentioned earlier, all the Facebook groups that I'm in, and these are just open to the public Facebook groups, um, and most of the posts that people will do or involve photographs, and some are people who believe that they might be experiencing something paranormal, or it might be paranormal investigators wanting to validate something in a photo. And like I said, 99% of the time it ends up being a result of pareidolia.
Hmm.
And like when I look at that ink blot, I start thinking Mothman. As a
Right.
paranormal investigator, I want to see something spooky and paranormal. And the same, if I took a photo of a haunted location and get what maybe looks like the image of someone standing in a window and I know no one's in there, um, I start, I think, maybe hoping that
Hmm.
it's something. Um, but one thing though, as a paranormal investigator, we want to make sure that what we are experiencing or seeing is really paranormal.
Right.
And so there are things you do need to do, like debunking. If you see something captured in a photograph, you want to try to debunk it and make sure that it's not just a reflection or a lace curtain on the other side of the window before drawing the conclusions of it being paranormal.
Right. And we actually do have an example of that here. Here you see a building Ashley, can you tell me a little bit about this? We're in the faraway view right now. So if you look in the window at the bottom, you see a face.
Okay, so this photograph here was taken at one of our investigations, and a lot of the claims, like this was during the tour, that because every time we go to a location, we first tour the place because and the tour guide, tells us of all the claims and things like that. So during our investigation, we can try to either, validate some of those claims or debunk. One of the big claims for this location was people from the outside seeing faces in the window. So I was going around the outside of the building taking photographs, and one I noticed at the bottom that something does look like a face, especially when you're several feet away from the
Hmm.
building and you're looking at the windows. You would think you see a face in the window.
But you get a little closer and you see what looks like could be some curtains. Then you get just a little bit
And
closer.
that
Uh huh.
Yes, and that is what is so important about, checking something out, investigating. That's what we're supposed to do is investigate. So if you zoom in to that
Mm-hmm.
photo, it's actually the lace curtain hanging on the other side, and it's just a pattern in the lace.
Right.
I've gotten photographs before where it was smudges on windows. And I've gotten photographs before where it was the reflection of a tree outside and the light coming through the leaves made it look like a face on there. But in this case, it was actually lace, a
Mm-hmm.
pattern behind the window that made it look like lace. And so
Right. And now we have another
that right
example
there.
of, yeah, another examples of just leaves, reflections of leaves. Ashley, you took this picture too. Tell me about it.
Let's see. I believe this was the same location,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see really what is showing up in on the reflection. You can see in the bottom window and the top. It's reflection from the trees because there were trees outside. So you want to be aware of your environment. You want to make sure, okay, is there anything on the outside that could be casting a reflection? Or is there anything on the inside of the window that could be coming through looking like something? And so you really do want to be aware um, of all that's around you when you are trying to debunk something.
True. Very true. And you see a lot of this, especially when you're in some of these historic locations, and you have old mirrors, you have basements where the walls are really smudged, and you can have like five photographs of the same piece of wall, and everyone's like, "Do you see the figure standing there?" Say, well, it's actually a lot of soot from an old chimney. Matrixing in Pareidolia is just it's just so natural for us. We see it in smoke. We see it in smudges and mirrors. When you've got old silver lined mirrors, like for example, we have these mirror smudges right here. All right.
Yes, and I believe this is one I took during a ghost tour. Can't remember where this was. I believe I was somewhere in Savannah,
Mm-hmm.
Georgia. And one thing on the tour, they told us take pictures of the mirrors. Each room you go in, because they wanted people to, feel like they're experiencing something paranormal. They're like, take pictures of the mirrors and then look through your photos later, and um, you'll see faces.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one that has a smudge on the mirror that a lot of people were taking the same photo of and saying they were seeing faces. All that's in this photo smudges on the mirror and reflections from things around the room. And when you do take a photo, you want to review it immediately so you can look around the room. Because later, if you look through a photo and you see something and you're not in the room anymore, you can't investigate to see if there was something that was reflecting in it. A lot of these historic homes, the old mirrors have distortion on them as well,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll have some of that aging and get like some dark spots on them. And a lot of times that will be mistaken as well for apparitions in the mirror when it's
Right.
just an aged mirror. A lot of times, light fixtures in the room, especially chandeliers with the little crystals hanging on them,
Right.
will cast certain, especially with flashes, will cast different images in the room too that can play tricks on your mind.
Right. I was about to say you have to be very careful when you're using flashes in a camera flash in an investigation. Your audio's crackling a little bit too, so if you can switch that for me.
All right.
Yeah, because I've had a lot of, especially windows. I live in a 100-year-old house, and the window, glass is liquid. It's just very, very, very viscous liquid that takes a long time to droop. But also in the glass making process of the early 1900s and late 1800s, the glass is not even, so like you've seen at the Moody Mansion and Woodruff Fontaine and all these, where the glass in the panes is almost wavy. So like the glass
Yeah.
in all through my house is wavy. And sometimes I will be like sitting there in the mornings and I'll just move my head and it looks like something has moved across my window. And we lost Ashley. The wonderful part of live streaming. She should be back in a moment. But the waves will almost look like something outside is moving. So I've had to do double takes like a whole lot. So let's give Ashley a moment to get back in with us. All right. She's having some issues with her microphone and her camera. So for our viewers out there, one of the things we want to do with this podcast is allow you to have your say, to have your chance to speak with us and to share some of your experiences that you've had in paranormal investigating or your desires for paranormal investigating, some ideas for places to go. Here she is. She is back with us.
I am having internet connection issues. It's been all through my neighborhood. My internet keeps going in and out, so I apologize for that.
Yeah, we've got you on mic, but we do not have you on camera.
All right, let's see here. I'm going to refresh my page.
All right. Give her a second here. Sorry about that. The wonders of live podcasting. Jeremy, what you been up to? There she goes. Here we go. All right, and she's back. She's gone again. There we go. All right, you're back.
Okay.
Welcome back. All right, so I was talking about the waviness of my windows is sometimes like in the mornings when I'm having my coffee and everything, I can just move my head and my peripheral, it looks like something has moved across my windows, but it's just the light coming in from the waves in the kitchen windows.
Yeah.
So we've had that a lot. Mirror smudges, window reflections. Jeremy says,
so-
not much, always waiting for your stream, LOL. And we're always waiting for you.
Well, thank you so much, Jeremy, for always tuning in.
Exactly.
We are happy to have you here.
Very happy.
So one thing, it's very important to try to debunk pareidolia.
Oh, gosh, yes.
And so there are things that you can do. Like I mentioned before, be aware of your environment. Check to see if there's trees or anything that could be reflecting. And I've even seen photos that were pareidolia where it wasn't taken in like a reflection of a window or a mirror. People taking photos like in the woods. And there are things that, like the trees and all that, indoors, even inside a house, furniture or different things like that can, you can.
Patterns in the wallpaper.
Yes. And so it's not just in reflections. You need to be aware of it. Anytime you take a photo of something and you believe that you've captured something paranormal, check your environment.
Also, don't just take one picture and move along. Take several, take 4 or 5 things from different angles. You may find in one that looks just like a shadow's coming right to you, but the next one is like, oh yeah, that's just smudges on a wall or fingerprints on a mirror.
And sometimes if you take a series of 3 photos, you might see one has an image in it,
Hmm.
the other ones don't. Then you might be able to figure out, okay, so something did show up in my photo
Yeah.
because it's not in the other ones. And if it was something of the pattern in the lace curtain, why isn't it in the other two? So then you're
Right.
like, okay, so maybe it
So
is
maybe that
something.
is something. Yeah, maybe I captured something. Or you see a big, huge shadow in one and nothing in the others. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that has happened to us.
Yes.
Now,
Um,
sometimes, Ashley, when you take pictures, do you use burst mode? Do you like pop, 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 pop? Or what do you do? Because you're a professional photographer, so when you're
yeah.
on an investigation, what is your modus operandi?
Okay, so it depends also on what equipment I'm using.
Hmm.
So some of the cameras that we use when we're investigating, we have an IR camera,
Hmm.
and so a lot of times that will just take static pictures. So just 3 back to back. So it's not just pop pop pop. It's you just stand there, you take 3 separate ones, give it a few seconds in between. If I'm um, trying to catch, it depends also, like with shutter speed. If your shutter speed is really slow, that's another thing you want to be aware of, because a slow shutter speed can give you a lot of kind of false anomalies
Right.
in your photograph. Um, but sometimes I'll also just go around with my cell phone taking pictures. And so even there, like if I'm just trying to get some quick little snapshots for like social media or something, I still try to take 3 of each. And if I'm using my digital camera, then I might speed up my shutter speed
Right.
and do kind of like a little burst session of photos. But really, it just depends. But anytime I'm taking pictures, I do want to try to get at least 3 of whatever I'm taking a picture of, so
Yeah,
I
and
can
that's
compare the
that's
3.
yeah, that's a good practice. That's really good
Mhm.
practice, especially in the dark, especially on an investigation. It's really important to have that backup, to
Mhm.
be able to investigate properly. And that's another thing we want to do on Conversations with Crash is we want to talk about how to investigate, best practices when investigating. Things we're going to be talking in the future are how to set up a paranormal group, how to begin investigating on your own. Because, like I said, I've been doing this for 17 years, and I started Birmingham Paranormal in 2007, and then we merged with Tuscaloosa Paranormal Research Group years later. And Ashley's been doing this for several years as well.
Mhm.
And when we go on an investigation, our biggest concern is number one, being respectful for the owners, being respectful to the property, being respectful to the spirits that are there, but also making sure that we are doing our job. We're never faking evidence. We're never jumping to conclusions. We want to make sure that anything that we present is going to be the best evidence that we can possibly gather.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So we
Yeah.
will have several episodes coming up about best practices, best things to do on an investigation. How to conduct an EVP session, how to conduct a voice box session. Some of the things that we do on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Also, if you have questions, if our viewers have any questions, want to know anything about certain equipment, want to know how to do something pertaining to an investigation, just drop us an email. Up at the top, you see crashmediaparanormal@gmail.com. You can ask us anything. You can send in your own evidence. Ashley, talk about that, if you
Yeah,
please.
so we actually have our email right at the top of the email in the right hand corner, crashmediaparanormal.com. And you can submit photos or videos. So if you have a photo that you're wondering, could this be something, or could it be just like another case of pareidolia, we will take a look at it for you and analyze and see if we can help analyze it and just figure out if it could be something, or if it might just be,
Right.
our brains telling us
Yeah.
we see a face and it's just a treat.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, um, but yeah, so also ways to properly debunk pareidolia. I'll say again, be aware of your environment. Take a series of at least 3 photographs back to back so you can
Hmm.
compare. And another good thing, if at all possible, review your photos and investigate immediately. So when you take photos, maybe take a few, look back through them, and then investigate to make sure.
Right.
Um, yeah, but also here's another thing, and this is something I understand you wouldn't be able to do immediately if you're using film. But I
Right.
will say some of the best actual images of paranormal images caught on film has been like 35 millimeter
Oh,
film.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're crackling up a little bit, so if you can switch your
Okay.
audio again.
Yeah.
Sorry
And why
about that,
don't you
folks.
go? And why don't you go ahead and explain about
Okay.
the film versus digital?
Okay. Number one, film has been used for over 100 years. If you look at old films like, say, from the 70s or the 60s, even the 1930s, like the original Dracula, they are high def. They are HD. The reason they're HD is film is made up of grain. Film is a physical medium, so it's made up of like a very fine grain. So anything that is filmed on film stock is inherently going to be the best quality that you can possibly get. And now we've switched to digital, which is pixels instead of grain. Pixels, until very recently have been a certain size. They're not as small as a grain of film. You can sort of see that. I'm a Star Trek fan. So they started upscaling the Star Trek The Next Generation onto HD, so 4K. And it was very easy for them to do because that show was shot on film. Whereas Star Trek Voyager, there had, until now AI is able to do it, but before that they were having trouble getting that into HD because it was shot on video. Video can't be upscaled. Now we're having a little easier time doing that with AI upscaling, but there are also just inherent problems with digital media, and we're going to talk about that next. It's called matrixing. And one of my favorite things to do, scrolling through the internet, is seeing all of the all of the conspiracy theories about the reptoids are coming, the reptilians. Oh no!
The lizard
And
people.
yeah, look, they're changing appearance on video. So I want to show you a little video and explain a little bit about what is happening. All right, so let's take a look. Let's see some reptilians in action. All right, here you have a nice oh, did you see that? Did you see that? All right, we're going to slow it down here in just a moment. But what you have here is the background is not moving, and the background bleeds into there momentarily because of video compression. Video compression, what is in the background is still. The moving it's difficult to explain, but it's matrixing. The digital signal is slow and it's weak, so it's not able to render what is moving as well it is able to render what is in the background and not moving. And I'm not explaining this very well at all. Let's take a look at this next one. This next one, the eyes are the main focus here. She's blinking a lot. And then, of course, if you look around her ears and everything else, you can see the same matrixing. So it looks like all of a sudden her eyelids have become transparent, but it's just good Lord, digital video artifacts. Here's a great one. Look at his eyes. And if you look around, this is happening in several other parts of this video, like the man's tie, everything else. Anything that is still, when there's sudden movement, the signal's not able to catch up. So, oh no, it's a reptilian, when actually it is digital video.
Pareidolia.
Pareidolia, exactly.
It would be really cool if there were real lizard people.
Oh, I would love it. I want to meet him. I want to meet him. This one, they're like,
want
oh
to-
no, he fixes his face. Look, oh no, he's changing. He's changing. Oh, he's noticed it. He's noticed it. Now he's going to fix it by touching. Oh, he is going away. When actually that was movement enough to get the video signal back to its normal. So I love, this is one of my favorite ones. And I am so not explaining this well.
No, you are. Yes. Better than I would be able to.
And this is great. He's going to touch it, and then it's going to go away because he fixed his. Oh, Jeremy asked about Obama's bodyguard. Yeah, that one again is someone with a very distinctive face shape, and with his face shape. One moment here. Let's go back to there. Okay, with his face shape and the digital compression, it almost looked like he was a reptilian. I'll have to find some videos of that, but that was a
You know
combination
what?
of, yeah, that was a combination of a dark room, video compression, and the guy's natural features. So that is, and I do think that on some of those videos there was a little digital manipulation going on, which again is something that's becoming more and more and more of a problem, especially in paranormal circles. How
Well,
many TikToks out there are like, oh, here's something spooky, and it is just so obviously CGI rendered. It is ridiculous. The biggest thing being the aliens in Miami right now.
I
There's like,
have a photo,
uh huh,
and this one I just took last night, so I
uh
didn't
huh,
have time to upload it to our media, so I'm just going to hold it up to the camera.
okay,
Last night, I was taking a selfie in the car.
uh huh.
Okay. And I was taking a selfie because I had some movie makeup on. Okay. So because it was getting dark out, my shutter speed on my phone automatically must have adjusted. Because on your phone, you can't really control that. These new iPhones, they kind of do it automatically.
Right.
So it lowered the shutter speed to let a little more light in. Well, I took the selfie and I moved my phone slightly and I look like some kind of lizard person. So
Well, I
actually, it looks
already knew the truth. I know that. I know
this.
about you. I know
Actually, it looks
about you.
pretty demonic. It's pretty creepy. I'm gonna see if this will show up, and I
Oh,
can't.
that's cool.
Can you see what
I
I'm
can
showing
see.
you?
Yeah, you almost
'Cause
look
I can't.
skeletal.
Hold on. I can't see if I'm
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, hold
where.
it back where you were.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that looks very skeletal. I like that. That's funny.
Is it focusing it? Yeah. So
Uh,
that right there, I was like, that's pretty creepy.
but
So
even though that was a total accident, that totally 100% is what we're talking about,
now
especially
some
with a slow
people,
shutter speed.
yes, and some people would look at that and be like, oh, there's she's possessed. Like there's some kind of
Exactly.
evil there. But it's yeah.
She's a
That was
lizard.
just my phone making me look like a lizard person.
Exactly. Exactly. I do have a video that you sent in for us about something that happened with you and your husband during an
Yes.
investigation. So I'm going to put that up on the screen.
Okay.
First off,
And
does anyone have any questions before we move on? Before we move on to some proof that we may have of an
and
actual orb.
while we're waiting on any questions, I do want to mention too, there is such thing as auditory pareidolia
Oh
as well.
yes, absolutely.
And and so that happens a lot in during EVP sessions
Oh
as
gosh, yeah.
well. And um, so running water, even through
Mm,
pipes, can actually sound like people talking, or it can sound like music too. It's crazy how it can
yes.
make you think that you hear music and it's running water.
I've got one for you while you adjust your mic.
Okay.
Oh gosh, probably my fourth or fifth year of paranormal investigating. We went to a house, and this house had, and this is no exaggeration because we counted, it had 52 functioning fish tanks. There were like 7 fish tanks in the bathroom alone. When we
Hmm.
walked into the house, there was this massive, like, sea, what you call saltwater tank, and it was gorgeous. We were like, oh my God, that is beautiful. But then we looked down the hallway, tank after tank after tank set up in the hallway. Each bedroom had like 10 fish tanks. The bathroom had 7 fish tanks. All of them had pumps going. The people that lived there were, well, we keep hearing noises like all the time. Like people are talking in the hallway and people are like talking in the bedroom. We try to go to sleep and all we hear is these conversations. When you have 57 fish tanks, it straight up sounded like there was a party going on in that house because all of the competing noises sounded like conversations. So our entire night, we did not properly vet this location, which we normally will send a team out to look at the location. This is one of those that we took their word for it. We were new at it, but we walked in and literally it sounded like a full on party was happening in there. It sounded like conversation out of conversation, and that is auditory pareidolia. I wish,
Yeah.
I wish some stuff from that still existed, but 57 fish tanks. It was insane, but the people were really nice.
Yeah, and and that's the thing. A lot of times when we go to private locations as well, and someone might be experiencing what they believe to be paranormal activity, and it actually makes them uneasy.
Right.
When we can explain to them, hey, some of the voices that you're hearing is actually water running, um, and it helps them feel more at ease.
Yeah.
And so that's one important reason why we do what we do, is to help people realize that there isn't anything that is scary or in
Right.
their house.
Right.
A lot of times it's just that um, mistaken identity or misperception, like with pareidolia.
We've run into that a lot. And one of the things that we love to do on these types of investigations is give them a little bit of reassurance, like, nothing's evil. We haven't found evidence of anything evil, but we have found this, and this that can help them sleep a little bit better and give them a few answers.
Yeah. But if you want me to, I can go ahead and kind of set up the video. Okay, so one thing that even when, with the common occurrence of pareidolia, you do want to keep an open mind when something can't be debunked.
Right.
So when you follow those steps, like checking your environment, reviewing your photos, and investigating, or even with the auditory pareidolia, and when something can't be debunked, and that's with anything in paranormal investigating, if you have an experience at a location that you cannot debunk, then keep an open mind that, hey, yeah, what I experienced might be paranormal.
Right.
And so I do have a video, and this was taken at the house, not that I live in now, but a house before this one. And we were experiencing paranormal activity. So this was actually about 11 years ago, actually. And we were experiencing a lot in this house. And let me know when you get the video
Okay.
playing, and
I'm
because I
ready
won't
when
be able
you
to
are.
see it.
All
Okay,
right.
you can go ahead. I
All
won't be
right.
able to see it, but as long as I can
Uh huh.
explain to people what it is while it's
All right.
playing.
It is rolling.
Okay, so can everybody hear me still?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we put a security camera up in this room because we were having things kind of get thrown off of tables. And we reviewed the footage back one night, and we saw this strange ball of light. And a lot of times when you have orbs, it's kind of mistaken identity as well, like dust or a bug or something. So I was not part of any paranormal group at the time. I wasn't familiar with investigating. So I reached out to the Tuscaloosa Paranormal Research Group. I sent them the video. They sent it to have it analyzed through this, I believe, a professor that was a specialist in insects. And they reviewed the video and said that there was no known flight pattern. There was no known insect flight pattern that this little ball of light takes in this
And
video.
and just for the viewers out there, this video is looping. So it's not like several. It's just this one instance, but the video is looping.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And you can see the time of night. It was in the middle of the night. I think it was like it says 1:54
Right.
a.m. And so anyway, the video was analyzed, and there was no. They said that there's no visible wing pattern as well, and the way that the light kind of comes into frame, kind of goes up and down, and then kind of swoops off to the side. the people who did investigate for us, which was members of the Tuscaloosa Paranormal Research Group, said that it moves intelligently and independently. We had no ceiling fan in that room running at all, and so you can see that it doesn't move like dust, and so you would think insect. But we did have it analyzed and through a specialist that there's no known flight pattern of any insect that moves like that.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that, even though this is not a great quality security camera footage, and you can see a little pixelation going on in there.
Right.
But this right here, we were not able to debunk it. We had several people examining it. No one was able to debunk it. And because we were having so much paranormal activity in that house at the time, it's one of those things we need to keep an open mind that, hey, that could be something.
Right.
And
that was
so,
a house y'all were living in at the time, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I've
y'all-
seen that
if
several
y'all-
times. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I'm sure y'all have heard me mention the Idlewood house, and so that's the house that we were living in. So whenever in past episodes, if I refer to the Idlewood house, that house had a lot of crazy activity,
Wow.
and so yeah, I don't know what that was in that video, but it's one of those things that we do have to keep an open mind that could have been something. So still always keep an open mind that something could be paranormal if you can't debunk it.
And while you're fixing your mic one more time, we've run into a lot of orb videos and everything else, and this is one of them that I've seen that could it be an insect? Possibly, but like we said, our team leader David and our co-leader Scott do have a lot of connections in the university, and they did take this to a bug expert, basically. I don't know what they're called, but and they looked at it. They said, we don't know. So if we're able to take it to an expert and they're baffled, we're just as baffled. So that was a very good capture. That was pretty cool. That was definitely pretty cool.
So, and also kind of we're going back to one thing we mentioned about the pictures for people to send in. So we are going to start a segment on each episode where we are going to showcase people's photos and analyze them on here. And so we'll be starting that, I think, next week. We have some people who have sent some photos to us.
Right.
And so, yeah, anyone watching, if you do have any photos, you can refer to that email address and the top right-hand corner and send us something if you have a question. Even if you don't want it featured on one of our episodes, you can still send it and let us know you want it confidential. We can, take a look at things for everyone.
And if you do send us something confidential, we will not break that confidence. So that's one of our pledges with our investigative. I don't know, just what we do. It's just what we do. We try to be as transparent. We try to be as confidential as you need us to be.
Yes. So we do have a couple of questions here.
Okay.
Okay, so this is for us. What is your favorite tool or piece of equipment to use in ghost hunting?
My favorite is right here. My favorite thing for ghost hunting is my Zoom recorder. I take this sucker everywhere. I've used it for podcasting. I've used it for everything. But this is my favorite thing in the world. The quality is good. It may be replaced within the next couple of months with one of the newer models, but it is a tour de force. The battery life on it is incredible. I can take it to 3 locations without having to change the battery. And we do a lot of recording. We record for hours on end. What is yours?
Yeah. I think for me too, my digital recorder, and I've got mine right here as well. So this is the new M2.
That's the one I might be getting.
Yeah, it's the Zoom. Yes.
Same company.
And so I have only had this particular one for a couple of months now. I think I've taken it with us on a couple of investigations. And so I had the older model of this one before that. And but things are like the spirit box and other things like the REM pod and everything. Those are cool. Those are fun. Um, but there's just something about it when you get an EVP. You
Right.
listen back and you have an EVP on here. There's just something so exciting about that, and so I think my favorite is the good old digital recorder.
Yep, I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. It is really hard to get video evidence. You try and try and try. Video evidence is probably the hardest thing to get, but audio evidence, we've been more successful with that.
Hmm. Um, so another question, and this one is for the audience. So, what is your favorite things to see investigators do? So, whether you investigate yourself, maybe, or you just like to watch paranormal shows, or or what you would like to see us do. What are some of your favorite segments of investigating, whether it be spirit box sessions? Or what. So just let us know in the comments. And even if you're watching this on the replay, comment and let us know.
Right, exactly. I would like to know.
Hmm.
Also, I'm going to ask a question for the audience. What is something you would like to try on an investigation? What is something you would like to do if you go on an investigation, or if you have been on investigations? What are your favorite things? Jeremy says, "I love live ghost hunts." And Jeremy, you're going to be witnessing several live ghost hunts coming up. We've got a full roster for the next few months.
Yeah, we've got a lot coming up. And let's see, March 2nd, I think is
It's
the
March.
next one we'd be going.
Right. It
It
is.
is
Yeah.
Yale Museum. And so I'm
And
not exactly sure. I'll
Jeremy
find
also
out.
says the SLS camera, which we
Yes, the
have one. We're going to be bringing that out at Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, I believe.
And I believe we're going to have one to use at Drish as well. So
Good,
we're
very good.
investigating the Drish house in March as well. And so, yeah, on one of our future episodes on here too, we'll feature that piece of equipment and show how that works
Right.
and some of the evidence we've gotten with SLS footage.
So we're excited about that. Another thing we're going to be doing on our show, I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but we're also going to be bringing in some equipment and showing how to use it and showing some of the evidences that we've gotten with that equipment.
Hmm. Yeah.
So we're going to be your full service how to paranormal investigate guys.
Yep. And we'll definitely, yeah, on some of our lives, we'll be featuring SLS and investigating with that. And yeah, and also on future podcast episodes, we're going to be starting having guests come on. Like,
Right.
so we'll have guests be able to call in and talk about different topics. So we've got some really exciting and fun episodes planned.
Absolutely.
So for anyone that hasn't subscribed, be sure to do that so you'll be notified when we do go live, because we've got some really cool things coming up. And also we go live during our ghost hunts, and so you can see us investigate live. And then we have a series episodes that we post on here as well.
So we have two episodes up right now for those who are not familiar with us. We have The Moody Mansion, which is in Bessemer, Alabama. And I'm lucky enough to live about 30 seconds away. And I actually moved to my existing house after ghost hunting in that house for one night. Met the guys that lived there, and I ended up being their neighbors. And we've also done Old Harriman Hospital in Harriman, Tennessee. And those episodes are up. We would love for you to watch them, leave comments, let us know if you've been to some of these places. Also, a quick plug for the Moody Mansion. If you go to themoodymansion.com, you can schedule to investigate there. So they have agreed to start letting people go and investigate there. I live very close, so I would be happy to meet y'all there. Stay with you if you'd like, or leave if you'd like. But yeah, they're open to that suggestion. So that's coming up in the future.
Yep, and don't forget to email us any pictures and any questions that you all might have.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, I've had a wonderful time tonight.
I
And
have too.
I
Yeah.
always enjoy this is the highlight of my week. I thoroughly enjoy this.
Yeah, me too.
And but yeah, if anyone has any questions or anything, just let us know. And if you don't, we will see you again in a week. And we've got some great things coming up, so please stay tuned and hit that bell icon so you can be updated when we go live and when we post additional material.
Mhm.
All right,
Yeah, so thank you all for watching.
absolutely appreciate it.